dangerous, large carnivore out there.
And I saw that bird pick a young deer off the road and fly away.
And it was just about getting dark, and we started panicking, running down this ridge, not really having any clue what was throwing rocks in our vicinity, good-sized rocks. And I stopped long enough to get a 357 out of my backpack and look back, and that's when I saw it. I saw one.
For a week, the town of Defiance was being harassed by a werewolf. And it's actually attacked two railroad workers, killed livestock, just a lot of weird stuff that was going on.
Good Sunday evening, Monster Xers. This is Gunnar Monson, your host, along with Shane Corson of the Monster X Radio program and the founder of Sasquatch Coffee Company. Sasquatch Coffee, you can find us at www.squatchcoffee.com, and we have some cool new black Feeling Squatchy t-shirts, so check them out. With me, as always, today is my good friend and fellow Bigfoot researcher, Shane Hardcore Corson. Shane, how are you?
Doing well, Gunnar. Glad to be here on Monster X Radio.
You do any squatching this weekend or get out in the woods?
Heck yeah, I didn't do a whole lot of field work per se. I took the family out and we did some hiking around the Tillamook area on a popular trail out there. One of our research partners, Larry Turner, was out in that area. We never met up, but it was pretty brisk and cold. But man, we didn't have any rain or anything, so it was just a beautiful hike out there, enjoying the wilderness and hiking up to some elevation. I got a 4-year-old, and she made it almost 2 miles. Pretty much straight uphill, and was loving it, and was like kept wanting to go up the hill, and it's like, we got to turn around, baby. But yeah, I got a little hiking partner now that loves the outdoors and loves hiking. So it was a good weekend. Even though there was no Bigfooting involved.
Well, I think any time that a Bigfooter is out in the woods, there's some kind of Bigfooting going on because you always got your eyes open. So it's always in the back of your head, especially since I was kind of in a new area, a little bit of ways from where we research, but always in the back of your head. But you gotta take time just to enjoy what's around you. And I had my daughter with me and my wife, and so I was enjoying them having them there with me, and just enjoying the great outdoors on a wonderful but cold weekend. With there was still some snow on the ground and stuff, but nothing us Oregonians aren't used to. No, we had beautiful weather day today, so I'm pretty excited about today's show. Today we've got Derek Randles, one of the co-founders of the Olympic Project, and Derek didn't make it to the Sasquatch Summit, but David Ellis, in his stead, shared some exciting information regarding something that was brought to the attention of the Olympic Project, and it's an ongoing investigation. So you have a little bit of inside information about that. Do you want to share anything, Shane? Or
I'll let Derek talk about. Derek's much he's much more in the know. We've all been, Limit Project members have all been caught up to date with what's going on out there. And Derek may even have some new news tonight. I'm not sure. But I'll let Derek speak to that. But I will say that, Tom Baker of the Limit Project and David Ellis, and as well as Cindy Dosen of the Limit Project spoke at the Sasquatch Summit and gave fantastic presentations. David Ellis, during his presentation, did put up on the screen a letter from Derek Randles, just kind of letting people know some of the things we're working on, and one of them is, this bedding area that was discovered, and nobody's screaming at Sasquatch, but it is definitely giving the circumstances, and with some of the people involved, it's very, very interesting, and nothing really seen before. Some of these guys have seen before. I believe Derek's seen something similar before. I've never personally been out in the woods and seen anything like this. I've seen some bear bedding. They do bed, but this is quite different for a number of reasons. So yeah, I'll let Derek talk about that. I know it's been kind of put out there a little bit with the general public, but it's not really. Derek, I don't think, has really gone out there and really shared it with the general public. So as a whole, so excited to talk about it.
Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Derek on. Here we go. Good evening, Derek.
Good evening, guys. How you doing?
We're doing good.
Doing well.
How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So Nevaeh, she hiked 2 miles, Shane? That's pretty amazing.
I'm telling you. Yeah, Nevaeh, awesome. She was all bundled up because it was pretty cold, but she just was just in beast mode going up the hill. Summer and my wife and I were just watching her, and she, maybe we'll get maybe 3/4 of a mile, because it starts out flat, but then it goes straight uphill. I mean, just straight uphill, and it's narrow, it's rocky, there's stumps, there's roots, and she's just going. And we got to an area where I thought, well, this is probably a good area to turn around because it's pretty steep on the way back, and I'm probably going to have to carry you part of the way. Nope, she wanted to keep going. She just was no, let's keep going. So
we're going to have to get her a little beast mode sweatshirt or something.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I was floored. I just we go on little hikes, but this was a little bit different given the weather and the area and the terrain. So now I know I'm really stoked to have this little hiking partner down the road, and when she can do even more, she'll probably be passing me up.
Well, you guys got to tell her Uncle Derek's very proud of her. That's pretty cool.
Will do. I think she'd love to go out hiking with you.
Good. Well, hopefully we'll be doing that real soon here. And I got to apologize. I'm just getting over a cold, and my voice isn't quite back yet. So, and the other thing, I'll apologize in advance in case it happens, but my home phone, if the battery goes dead, I will be calling you back on my backup phone. So if you lose me, I'll call you right back.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely no worries.
Okay.
So Derek, for those that aren't familiar with the Olympic Project or with yourself, can you give us a little bit of background how you got into where you are now, with the Olympic Project, and what got you into squatching?
Well, what got me into Bigfooting was fighting an experience that I had back in 1985 in the Olympic Mountain Range. Myself and 2 other people. I'll go back through the whole story. I think everybody's probably sick of hearing it, but we had some rocks thrown at us and were escorted down off the hill, and I turned back to get a glimpse of, the only thing I could call it was Sasquatch, and I've been in research ever since. So I worked with several different groups, including Jeff Meldrum and the North American Ape Project in the late 90s, and then I started doing some work with the BFRO around 2000, around the time of the Skookum expedition, and worked loosely with them on and off in a tracker's position, and I'd go out and ended up being a curator, and I helped them get some sites ready for expeditions and things of that nature. And then about 7.5 years ago, I'm guessing, Richard Germeau and myself came up with the idea of taking any given area, some areas that we had in mind, and doing some camera trap work on them. It was actually Rich's idea, and we thought it was a great idea, so we kind of pitched it to Wally Harrison. This is when I was still in the BFRO. And Wally was all over the idea and told us that whatever equipment that we wanted to use in that effort, that he would be happy to furnish, and so he did. And so that's how the Olympic project was started, and it was almost 8 years ago. And so we started that, and it started out just being pretty much just a camera trap project. And then a few years ago, probably 3-4 years ago, we decided to change gears a little bit and put some emphasis off the camera work and start working on, behavioral studies, habitat studies, probable food source studies, and getting into some more thermal imagery and just, more, we tried to embody more research other than just the camera work. And at that point, started recruiting, handpicking people for the Olympic project that we thought could help with this effort. And everybody from, John Bendernagel to John Mayachinsky to David Ellis, both of you people, Gunnar, Monson, Shane Corson, a long list of people. And today we have, in my opinion, the best group of researchers going, and very fortunate to be a part of it. And it's kind of nice because back in the day I was kind of, spearheading it, myself and Rich, and then David came aboard and has been helping run it. And now it's taken on a life of its own, and I'm just a part of it. I don't really consider myself running it anymore. I'm just a part of the Olympic project, but I'm very fortunate to work with just a fantastic group of people. And I will tell you, I'm really excited about this year. Some of my New Year's resolutions, a lot of them have a lot to do with Bigfoot. And we're going to hit it super hard this year. I'm real excited about the research that's going on right now, the stuff that we're involved with. And I think 2016 is going to be a year we're going to hit it super, super hard.
So I like the fact that a little piece of your encounter is on the start of every Monster X show. It talks about you turning around with your revolver. So we already get a little bit of a review. It's kind of cool. But so I guess we'll get into the meat right now. I mean, one of the most exciting things that for me at the Sasquatch Summit was David Ellis presented some of the work that the Olympic project is doing right now, and there's a area of extreme interest that if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that, that'd be awesome.
No, not at all. I've got to be vague about locations and things like that because the area is under our study right now. But I will say in Mason County, near the Olympics, there is a site that we're working right now. And I'll just kind of go to how it started. In May of last year, while we were actually on an expedition up at the property, I got a phone call from a friend of mine. And this friend is in a family that owns a very, very substantial amount of timberland. And this guy's job is to cruise timber and get it ready for proposed logging cuts and whatnot. He's been doing it for many years, over 20 years. That's been his main job. And while he was out doing exactly that, ribboning off a timbered area that hadn't been logged in close to 50 years, he come across some ground nests to the likes that he'd never seen before. Nothing he'd ever seen before like this. And this is a very, very experienced woodsman. Spends the majority of his adult life in the woods. But these nests that he come across were again, something that he'd never seen anything like it before. And I would describe them, and I'll get into it, but I would describe them as if you were to take like a giant bird's nest, anywhere from 3 feet across up to 8 feet long and everything in between, and transfer that down to the ground. That's kind of what you're looking at. And so he found multiples of them. He actually found 5 of them, and it put him back. He actually got spooked in the area and got out of there. And he also noticed that there was just, a lot of damage to a lot of the trees and stuff in the area, and then in the huckleberry, it's just inundated with huckleberry. And so he didn't stay long. He didn't look too long. He actually got a little tweaked out over the whole deal. So I had done a landscape job for this man about 12, 13 years ago, and I think he'd seen me on a documentary as well. He knew that I was into Bigfoot research, so he reached out to me, and it just happened to be while we were on that expedition in May. You guys were there. And so I was excited, of course. So we came back from the expedition, and about a week later, myself and James Millian, another Olympic Project member, met with him, and we met with a couple other people, woodsmen, people that work in the woods, and that's all I can say. And we went out to the area, and I was blown away by what I saw. It's a very remote area, very thick, very tough to get into, and I was just really put back by what I was looking at. Just big, thick ground nests. And so as we're looking at them, we noticed that every piece of the ground nests were about a foot thick, and I would say on average 5 to 6 feet across, and about a foot thick, depressed in the middle, like a large animal was laying in them. But every piece of all of the 5 nests that we were looking at was entirely constructed of huckleberry tips. And so we started looking around the area, and if you were to take a ridgeline, a timbered ridgeline, and draw a line about 90 feet wide and about 120 feet long, every single huckleberry bush in this area had been broken, and the tips broke off, and all these tips imported to each nest site, and the nests fabricated with the tips. I've never seen anything like it. And I've come across a whole bunch of bear beds in my day, and so was this gentleman I'm referring to as well, the one that told me about it initially. And James, of course, James and I together have many, many, many years in the woods, and I've never seen a bear bed anything like this. Generally, a bear will usually stand beside a tree, rake the bark down, nestle itself down into the bark, something of that nature, or at times a bear will use what he can grab in the immediate vicinity and kind of, get a little bit of foliage underneath it and just nestle down into the ground like that. But never have I come across anything where tips were broken and then transported, over distance and then nests fabricated. And it was really crazy. I couldn't believe it. So we got pretty excited about that, and this gentleman gave us permission to study this site for about as long as we need to try to figure out what is doing it. So do you have questions at this point, or would you like me to just keep rolling on here?
Go ahead and keep rolling on, and then we'll get to some questions. Like I said, Gunnar and I we already know the ins and outs, but I got some questions that I think are relevant. The audience aren't aware of. But yeah, keep rolling on, Derek.
Okay, so as we're on this is the first day. As we're there are these 2 forest workers, the gentleman and myself and James Millian. We're looking around the area, and actually we started hearing some movement below us. This area, the funny thing about it is it's almost set up like a military camp, and you'd have to see it to know what I'm talking about. Shane, I have drawn it for you so you know what I'm talking about. But it's a very strategically located area. There is no quiet way into this area, but there are escape routes out of this area down a very steep ravine. And at the base of this ravine is a salmon stream, which is completely chock full of salmon in October and November. The entire area that we're talking about is level. It's on a ridgeline, and it's just total huckleberries. So the huckleberries are in there really thick later in the year as well. So there's 2 really good food sources right there, high protein and, huckleberry. You can't sneak into this area. It's just so thick. You're plowing through bushes to get into this area. So there's no quiet way in. So as we're looking around, it's just kind of unfolding, and we walked up to one of the largest nests, which was situated right on the ridgeline, looked down, and there's 2 softball-sized rocks, maybe a little bit smaller than a softball. 2 rocks just laying there, like, they weren't planted in the ground. They're just laying there. Obviously had been sat there. Look down at them, and Shane, Gunnar, you guys have seen the pictures of these, I believe, but pick the rocks up, and the underside of both of these rocks are scored from being struck together. And that really set me back. And it looks like, there was probably 6 or 7 fresh scores where the rocks had been smacked together, and then there appears to be a history on these rocks of being hit together. The picture kind of has to explain it. That's about the best way I can describe it. But very obviously, these rocks have been smacked together repeatedly. And so the site, every minute it's just getting more interesting. So we're looking at these rocks, Now, there is, in this area, there's bear damage as well. There was a lot of feces on the ground all around this area, which looks like ape feces and it looks like bear feces. It's really because they're both very similar, as a matter of fact. A lot of the trees, like I said, every single huckleberry bush in this area had been damaged or broken in one way or another. So as we're looking around, James actually worked his way down the ridge towards the ravine a little bit, and then started hollering for me, and I ran down the ridge, and we looked up, and about 50 to 60 feet up in this old-growth tree is a gigantic organic platform. It looks like a very, very large bird nest. But I'm not sure it's a bird's nest. It's huge, for one thing. It's probably 7 by 8 feet square, and it's a platform on the tree that's all organic, obviously constructed. So we haven't even investigated that aspect yet. It would take climbing spikes to get up there, and there appeared to be like shimmy marks up the tree. And so I do have photographs of all this, and I'll be presenting a more in-depth photographic documentation of this at the next 2 symposiums coming up. There's one in September that Ed Brown is holding in Kennewick, and then the Sasquatch Summit again. We're going to be revisiting this, and hopefully by the time that rolls around, we'll have some answers, because we are intensively camera trapping the area and studying the area right now. So we're just trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So, anyways, this big organic structure is pretty amazing looking. Could it be a very big bird's nest? Yes, it could be, but we don't know. We haven't been up there yet. But it's big, and it's really out of place, and it's really strange.
Yeah.
So coming back up, everybody in the party there, with the exception of James and I, were ready to get out of there because we were hearing some movement down below us. So I was given permission. The Olympic Project was given permission to study this site as long as we need to. And so that was the first day. So we came back in a few weeks later, just a couple weeks later, I believe, myself and John Pickering, and David Ellis went in with us, and James went in. And, no, actually, that was the second time we went in. We decided to get some hair samples out of a couple of nests. Yeah, John Pickering went. So we're in there and get back to the nest. Nothing had been disturbed. Nothing had been moved. And so we took 3 of the different nests and very carefully got hair samples out of 3 of them. We used roll tape and got the hair samples. But believe it or not, that takes a long time to do. Because you need a magnifying glass, you need tweezers, you need to do it. You need to do it without contaminating anything. So you're gloved up, you're using all the right apparatus and whatnot. But we were able to get hair samples out of 3 of the nests. And at that time, we hung 3 cameras in the nesting area, and then we hung another one down off the ridge a little bit, down towards the platform. And we left. So the hair samples were sent to Cindy Dosen, another Olympic Project member up in Canada, and she got a hold of me a few days later, very excited, and 3 of the samples that came out of those nests matched her other purported Sasquatch hair samples. I believe she has 2 or 3 other ones, and they did match them. One of the hair samples, and it was also not bear, not elk, not deer, not anything like that. So 3 of the samples did match her other samples that she has categorized as Bigfoot hair. One of the samples matched another sample from the Wainuchi area, dead on, identical. So that was very, very exciting. So since that time, myself, David Ellis, John Pickering, James, and David's daughter, who is a primate biologist, went back into the area. Again, when we got in there, the nests had not been disturbed or touched. And I'll just say this right now: I think it's pretty obvious that this is a seasonal spot. And I'm going to back up here one more time too. So after the first initial visit out there, I spent 2 days on the internet trying to find any kind of North American ground nest that matched what we were looking at, and there just wasn't anything. I mean, the only thing that I could come up with at first was a sun bear, which isn't even in the United States, and they generally make their nests up in trees. and they will pull foliage down and make a nest as they're up in the tree, and they'll nestle down into that foliage that they break off. Other than that, I could not find a match for these nests until the second day of my internet search. I found African ape nests, great ape nests, and they are a direct match. I mean, a direct match. The only difference is the type of foliage used. So got pretty excited about that, and that's one of the reasons we got David's daughter in there, because she knows what she's looking at. We've got a bear biologist and another biologist involved. Nobody thinks that they are bear nests. We've got the hair samples. The area is camera trapped, and so that's kind of where we're at right now. I intend here in the next couple weeks to go in and do a camera check, because we think that it's probably this time of year or maybe a month from now or so when the nests were constructed last year, judging from the age of the foliage in the nests. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we might get some answers. The first camera check we did, we got some deer and we got some bear in the area, but nothing that walked through there paid any attention to the nests whatsoever. They just kind of meandered through. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We are doing camera work in there. And beyond that, we've just completely kept the human presence out of there to keep the scent out, and we're going from there. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, Derek, I remember the phone call I got from you about this discovery and your research on it, and so I went and, after you said, the closest thing you could find anywhere was like this gorilla nest. I got to check this out. So I got online and I started looking, and I saw some of these mountain gorillas, what they would do with their nests, and the feces around the nest, and the pictures you had shared with me, and it was like so compelling and interesting because it's just feces. It looked like a gorilla nest. I mean, it really did. You saw these piles of feces. You saw the nests, how they're constructed. It was uncanny. Even we're not screaming Sasquatch here. We're just saying this is very interesting. But
that's the way of the Olympic project. We're not going to call it Sasquatch until we can prove that it's Sasquatch. Period. But it is very, very compelling. And one thing I forgot to add too, Shane, is on our return trip in there with John Pickering, we did discover 3 more nests. So we have found so far 8 nests in proximity of this area right there. So eight that are documented so far.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure you would say that because of the sensitivity of the area, that there could possibly be more nests or whatnot. Not sure yet.
Yeah, and that's been the hardest thing, is to not charge in and make the mistakes that we've made in the past by overhiking an area, or you know what I'm saying. We've really worked super hard to stay out of there. Luckily, this area is miles behind locked gates, and so it's very, very little to no human presence in there whatsoever. And the one thing that we decided in the beginning is to not spread our human scent around in there. And we've really held true to that, and descented when going in, and just taken it really, really, really militaristically. Really strategically trying to keep the scent down, trying to keep super quiet on just the couple times that we have been in there. So on the next camera check, I'm just for instance going to go in the rain, going to descent, go in the rain, get the cameras checked, and get right out. And then that way your scent's only going to be there for a day or two. Just trying to do it right. We're not trying. It's really, really hard not to go hike that area, because of course the first thing you want to do is go hike around and see if there's more nests across the ridge, or go through the ravine up to the other shoulder side and see if there's more nests there. But we've been pretty disciplined here. We don't want to blow this. Now, and the other thing that I'll add, if these are Sasquatch nests, and if their behavior is similar to, say, a mountain gorilla, and these are all big ifs, but if that's the case, these mountain gorillas they'll construct these nests, but they'll only use them for 1 to 2 days, and then they'll move on. And it's hard to believe all the work put into these nests that they would only use them for 1 to 2 days, but that's what gorillas do. So we don't know if they're going to come back. We don't know if this is an area that they're going to frequent once a year. But when you see this area and you see how similar it is to, I mean, it just feels military-ish, the way it's set up, the way that you can't sneak in, the way that there's escape routes out. Yeah, it's just uncanny. So we're hoping that whatever constructed these nests comes back, and we can document them with high definition video. Yeah, because
the point or the nest that was, I guess, at the front, kind of possibly strategically placed, that's where the rocks were found, and like I said, from what I've seen from the pictures and everything else given, it does seem very military-like in that these rocks that seem to be clanked or had knocked marks on them, scrapes on them. It would echo or through this area. They were placed there. That to me was very interesting.
Yeah, that coupled with the fact that when you find something that you want to, or that you try to link up to Sasquatch activity, you try to say, okay, this could be Bigfoot activity. The interesting thing about this site, far and away, which makes it probably the most interesting site I've ever been a part of the investigation of in my 30-some-odd years of Bigfoot research. To me, this is the top so far as probability or possibility, because there isn't just nests. I mean, the nests alone are unbelievable. They're crazy. And then on top of that, you have these rocks that have a history of being banged together. And on top of that, we have 3 hair samples out of 3 of the nests that have come back unknown, but matching other probable Sasquatch hair. So it's compiling on top of itself. And again, we're not going to jump out there and say these are Bigfoot nests, but I think that there's at least a pretty decent possibility that they are, and we are going to get to the bottom of it, hopefully.
Yeah, and one of the other interesting things you kind of touched upon was that this is an area where there was no apparent human activity for a long time, and that was mentioned by the original finder of this area, that no one, to his best guess and whatnot from being out there in this remote area, that there was no human activity. There was no trash. There was no trails of humans, anything like that. No, there are some Forest Service roads, and a couple skid roads that get you to the area, but there's a considerable amount of off-trail hiking just to get down to these areas. And, again, they're behind locked gates, miles behind locked gates, and nobody has these keys. So there's just a lot of circumstantial evidence. There's a lot of good evidence here, and I'm very excited about it. It's just, again, it's been really hard not to go in and just explore, because who knows? There could be another 5 nests across the ridge. There could be a half a mile down the ridge. There could be another 10 nests. We don't know. And we're afraid to really go find out until we surveil this and do our due diligence. And we're just trying to do it right, and we're trying not to get, put the cart before the horse. We're trying to figure out what's going on here. But I'm excited, man. I haven't been this excited about anything in research for a long time. Yeah, likewise. Definitely, this is an exciting find, and the possibilities are there for something unique. Definitely, with these bedding areas, the makeup of them. You mentioned how thick they were. Some of the questions that will be asked. Were some of these nesting areas, were they still green in the nesting areas from being, from the huckleberries being snapped off? And what, in your opinion, having viewed them in person, was it built up over time, or was this a one-time thing? Because they were thick and deep.
Yeah, and that's a great question. When we first found them, when it was May of last year, they had appeared, and we're guessing, but they had appeared to have been constructed maybe, I'm going to say, a couple months before, because part of the foliage, almost half the foliage in the nest still had quite a bit of green. And one of the uncanny things about this is these nests, they were very intelligently built. They're about a foot thick, and they took time. It took time. Yeah. It was not, this wasn't just a place to flop down. These nests took time to build, and they're all like a foot thick. And, doing the ape research, the apes generally build these in the wintertime, or when the weather's cold, to insulate them from the ground. And with a good foot, thick of this foliage, it's not only insulating it from the ground, it's like a mattress. and David's daughter laid in a few of them. We have pictures of her laying in them, curling up into one of them, just to see, so we could, see what it would look like. Somebody, she's very tall, what it would look like, and they're quite comfortable.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Just really weird. But okay, so back to your question. We had guessed that when we were there in May that these were probably made, I'm going to say, 2 to 2.5 months prior. Mm-hmm. And when we went back in the last time, which was fairly recently, the nests were all completely dead. Nothing had been added to them, and all the green foliage was gone. So, they're still really cool looking, but there is no green foliage in them any longer. Nothing's been. We were hoping that, when we get back in there, there's some stuff's going to be added. But right. Playing into the time of year, if they return to this spot or if they build new nests, it's probably going to be in January, February, March, would be our guess.
Mm-hmm. And the strategically placed area that this is in, it overlooks a stream and that does hold, salmon runs, steelhead runs, whatever. And it makes sense that, to look at this during certain times of year when you get those runs coming in there, if say, Sasquatch eat salmon or steelhead, this would be an area to really look at during certain times of year. I mean, right. I know we talked about this and thought about this. What are your thoughts about, where it's placed in conjunction with this stream?
Well, I think I'll put it this way. If I was going to go live remotely in the woods, this spot would be like number one on a list because the huckleberry in there are really thick. And that's when I'm out hiking, off-trail hiking, that's my favorite food. And on top of that, you can come off this ridge where these nests are, and in about a minute and a half, you're standing on a salmon stream that's chock full of salmon in October and November and December. It's full of salmon. So, I mean, you got your protein source right there, you have your water source right there, and you also have all this huckleberry right there. So it's a very intelligent spot. It's a very intelligent spot.
Yeah, and one of the other cool, we're talking about this bedding area. There was one particular, called a nest, called a bedding, whatever, that was in one of the huckleberry bushes, I believe, that was kind of half done. It looked like it was started or practiced, which you didn't mention yet, but I thought was really interesting.
The best thing in the world to do is to go into the woods with John Pickering.
Yes.
I'll put it that way right there. As we were searching around looking for looking for other probable nests, and we were very careful not to go too far because we just didn't want to get human scent spread around too much in there. But John hollered at me. He was over on the other side of these bushes and came over to him, and he found one, and it was like, the only thing I could say is like a practice nest. And it was about 3 feet up in a huckleberry bush, and it was another nest, just like what we're constructing on the ground, but it was being built 3 foot or so off the ground. So after we got out that night, right back on the computer, and that is actually guerrilla activity as well.
Yes.
When they're teaching their young ones how to do this. And it's just, there's a lot of arrows pointing. And it's you don't want to get too excited because, our motto within the Olympic Project, if it's a Bigfoot, it's a Bigfoot, but it's not a Bigfoot until we prove it's a Bigfoot. But
right.
Finding that practice nest or whatever you want to call it that John found, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Derek. I haven't seen the photos and everything else that's gone on with this. I'm excited, reserved like everybody else, but excited about it because it's nothing like I've ever seen before. And to me, that's interesting, without a doubt.
Well, one thing that kind of hit me in the face, too, is the gentleman that turned us onto this site, one of the owners of this land, the two people he brought with him make their living in the woods, and they have for, more than a couple decades. So by the time you put the three of them, and then myself and James, you're talking about five individuals down there that have spent a lot of time in the woods, off trail, and none of us had seen anything like this.
Yeah.
And that says a lot. It's not that we're the foremost wilderness experts in the world or anything, but we have all spent a lot of time in the woods. And I've come across tons of bear beds and, deer beds and elk beds, and I've just never seen anything like this, not like this.
Yeah. And Derek, now, you have this area, and as you described it in the pictures I've seen, everything is snapped off. And can you describe some of the huckleberries that were snapped off as to the thickness? Were they twisted or just snapped off, to give the audience a better idea of what you're describing?
Well, there's a couple, I'm not going to say twisted, but mangled. Mm-hmm. Everything in this area is mangled, broken off, and snapped off. We could not find any evidence of chew marks, zero evidence of anything being cut. Everything was either snapped, broken, or snapped and pulled. And the crazy thing is, Shane, is that every bush there. I mean, it was like if you were to take an area that's two or three times the size of a home. What a home footprint would be, maybe 4 times bigger than a home footprint. And take every single bush in that area and break it. And the breaks are all anywhere from 2 to 7 feet off the ground. Everything in between. And there are some snaps in there where things were just snapped off. One was a madrona that was about 1.5 to 2 inches thick. Just snapped. Absolutely snapped. And the huckleberry, it's just devastated. I mean, it's just like something spent time in there. What it looks like, you try to imagine in your brain what was going on when this was happening, and you can just see figures standing at every bush, breaking stuff off, fabricating these beds. I don't know how else it could have been done, or why it would have. It's just crazy. And
right.
You find, people find what they consider twist offs or break offs or snap offs, but this whole area, every bush has been affected. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the craziest things about it. I mean, it's just everything in there has been snapped and broken to fabricate these beds.
Yeah. I know for a lot of people it's hard to fathom an area like this without seeing pictures and all that stuff, but can you describe where some of these nests, and you alluded to this earlier, but where some of these nests were, because for me personally, it is very military-like. It's you can tell, at least I can tell, that these nests, or this bedding area, that they were almost strategically placed. There was a point and a guard and whatnot. It's really odd. I know elk do similar things, but with this area, given the area that it was found in and everything else, it's unique. It really is unique. Mm-hmm. But it does have, this strategically placed bedding scenario going on.
Well, it's kind of like a fat triangle is what it is, with the point being, as this ridge line runs along, the ridge line comes out to a point, and then it comes back, like in triangle fashion. And one of the biggest beds, the two biggest beds are close to the point. One of the biggest beds is right at the point. That's where the 2 rocks were found. And then just back to the right, about 15 feet, there was another bed that was about 3 to 4 feet wide and about 8 feet long. And it was under bushes. It was constructed under bushes. And then if you were to just draw a fat triangle, a regular triangle, and then take 2 of your apex points and pull them out, that's how these beds are situated in a triangular fashion as this point comes back off the ridge line. Mm-hmm. And it just when you were there when I drew it on the board.
Yeah.
And Tom, who was a military fighter pilot, he instantly saw.
Yeah, instantly.
And I'm not trying to read more into this than there is, but it's I don't know. It's really, really difficult to explain.
Yeah, even if you had walked into the woods and found this nest or bedding area that was up in the tree, all by itself, you'd probably think some sort of bird of prey, something along those lines. But given its proximity to the other bedding areas, one has to wonder, especially with the size of it and the area that it's in, what is the purpose of this? I mean, some of the questions come in the chat. Is it a bird's nest? How big is it? What was it made of? Well, we don't know what it's made of, obviously, because no one's climbed up there for obvious reasons. Say we're taking this slow. If you go up and climb up a tree that looks like it's been shimmied up, you're going to leave some scent and stuff there. But
and that in turn is why we don't have all the answers that we're looking for yet, is because in the past I've been guilty of it. A lot of researchers have been guilty of it. You get into a site where you think it's a potential Bigfoot area, and you research the crap out of it, and you do too much. And we just really wanted to do this differently and keep human presence out of there. Like when we are in there, we're only in there for not long. And the longest amount of time we spent in there was when John Pickering and myself and James went in to get the hair samples, because you can't do that fast.
Yeah.
And so we were in there. We were probably the equivalent of 3 to 4 hours to lift hairs out of 3 of the nests, 3 of the 8. And, I didn't want to be in there that long, but we really wanted to get some hair samples, and I'm certainly glad that we did.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it would have all come back, as all known hair, then, we looked at it a little bit differently. But, I mean, getting the unknown hairs out of 3 of the different nests, it's you just, what do? You just keep going. But we don't want to overpresence the area, and we were actually, we roundtabled with David Ellis and Nathaniel and Kurt Brandenburg about getting, what we're going to do to get some audio surveillance set up in there. But the problem is you get audio going in there, and then you're going to be in there a lot, checking it, servicing it a lot.
Yeah, maintaining it.
And we decided against it. We just decided against it. And that could be coming up in the future, but we just, if the more we're in there, whatever's in there is not going to be there. We're going to push it right out. So we're just being really, really careful.
Yeah, and that was, kudos to the Lent Project, the group as a whole, and kudos to you, Derek, for putting it up to a kind of a vote sort of scenario where, you were looking for ideas and stuff, and I think predominantly everybody agreed, and I know I wholeheartedly agree with our decisions there. Some of the ideas that came up was, could you bring a drone in there and survey the area? And, even with that tree nest bedding area, you couldn't really get anything in there. Even if you had a drone, this area is so picked out almost perfectly, it's scary.
Yeah, well, there's the heavy canopy over this area. I mean, this is in the timber. This is not in an open area whatsoever. And one of the things about this organic platform that's up in the tree, could it be like a giant eagle's nest or something like that? Yes, it could be. I don't know the exact dimensions on the average eagle nest, but this is at least 7 by 8 foot square. I'm not trying to read any more into it than we know. But it was just really strange, really strange. And one thing I will point out, though, one of the things that I like about the Olympic Project and the way that we do this is, and just so people know too, like I said a few minutes ago, I don't run the Olympic Project. I did in the past, but I don't run the Olympic Project anymore. We're just a team, and when we make these big decisions as far as how we're going to study an area and what we're going to do and what the protocol is going to be, we do it as a team. We sit down, because there's a lot smarter people in the Olympic Project than me. And so it's nice to get everybody's brain involved and then come up with what we're going to do. And that's exactly what we did when we decided, how we were going to go forward and study this area, is put it up to a vote. And, we got everybody in one place, pretty much everybody in one place, and then we laid it out there and said, okay, what's the ideas? Let's figure this out. And I love that about our team.
Yeah, same here. We got a fantastic team, and we all mesh together just right, and nobody gets butthurt over anything. So I really enjoy being a part of the Lent Project. I'm truly blessed to be a part of it. And now we have this discovery, wherever it leads us to, it's just unique and interesting. I was going to mention, too, Derek, I was going to ask you, have you ever seen anything like this before? I know this is kind of unique, but have you found bedding areas before? I know the answer to this, but or have talked to others that have found similar things of this nature?
Well, Cindy Dosen was involved. I don't know if she discovered it or if somebody she was with discovered it. I can't remember, but she has a photograph of a bed that is just about identical to what we found. and I believe it was found on Vancouver Island. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
But, I believe you're right,
she has a photograph of one that is identical, just about. The only difference is a little bit different foliage. And so there's one that I'm aware of, and in, I believe it was 1997 or 1998, I was on a 3-day off-trail hiking expedition with John Mayanshinsky and Jeff Meldrum, Brian Smith, and I think, who else was there? John Andrews. And we were down in Shoefly Creek in the Blue Mountains, and we come across a bed that was fairly similar, but it was constructed out of fir boughs that were laying on the ground. So that's the closest that I've ever found to what we're looking at here. But there's no comparison.
Right. Well, I mean, is there any comparison with where this bed was found? As I mean, was it found on a ridge? Was there water nearby?
Oh, okay. It was along Shoefly Creek. Actually, it was probably about 60 to 70 yards up off the creek, and we were way off trail. We were in the blues, and we had hiked the equivalent of an entire day down into the Shoefly drainage. I think it's the Shoefly. And we got down in there, and it was the next day, it was the second day actually, that we discovered this bed. And I think John Mayanshinsky found it. And we all looked at it, and we didn't lift hair samples out of it. We were down there, actually, this was back when they were with the North American 8 Project, when he was putting some emphasis into DNA traps, DNA snares. And so we were kind of focused on that. But we found this bed, and it was, you'd have to see how far, it was way, way, way in country for where people would rarely ever go off trail. So it's you kind of pretty much, in my mind, I could rule out human there. And then the bed was intelligently constructed with fir boughs. And I think either I or Jeff Meldrum has a picture of it. John Mayanshinsky, I'm sure, has pictures of it. But it was similar, but not quite the same, but also intelligently built. The one picture that Cindy Dosen has of one that I think she found is very, very similar. As a matter of fact, I just saw it on Facebook a couple days ago. Yeah,
likewise, I saw it too, and was like, wow. I've seen it before, but forgot about it and saw it again. It was like, wow, that's so similar.
Oh, it is. It really, really is. Just a little bit different foliage is all. Yeah.
Well, you got to go with if you're making a bedding area, you got to go with you have around you. You don't drag in something from miles away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, so many people involved
I'm pretty excited, man. I'm really excited just to simply try to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, exactly. It is a mystery, and that's what we're here for. But
and so I will add this too, because I've been thinking about it, and it's another thing that we've got to have another roundtable discussion with the Olympic Project, how to move forward. If we get through spring and whatever constructed these beds does not come back, then we need a plan to move forward. And I think we need to sit down and talk about, okay, do we start investigating the surrounding ridges and whatnot? But I guess we'll cover that when we get there.
Oh yeah, because the area is so unexplored, and it's a vast area. The possibilities are amazing to what could be found there, and that to me is exciting. I'm glad to be a part of the Lynn Project, if not just being a part of the Lynn Project, but this project here is just confounding. It's very unique and exciting. So, badass.
Yeah.
But with the people involved in this project, Derek, or aware of it, you kind of discussed earlier about some of the people involved. What are some of the people that have been brought into this? We talked about David Ellis's daughter, who's she's a primatologist. She, and I mean her initial impression, well, it's not a bear. It's this looks similar to say apes, gorillas.
Yeah, African
What
gorilla
are some of the other opinions out there? I mean, has anybody come out and said, "Oh no, that's this" or "That's that"?
No. Nope. Nobody's really. We're all trying to be skeptical. We're all trying to be skeptical. John Pickering is the voice of reason in this site right here, but even he is very, very confused by what we're looking at. James got a hold of a bear biologist. I don't have the guy's name on the tip of my tongue, but he was showed all these pictures as well. He's a bear biologist in Northern California, and he ruled out bear within like 3 minutes. He said these are not bear beds. The pictures have been sent to John Bendernagel. He's very impressed with the spot. It's just now we've just got to find out what's making these beds.
Yeah.
We've just got to find out what's making these beds. But the thing that really hit me in the face, these rocks that we found next to one of the biggest beds were just crazy, because they have very obviously been struck together multiple times. And we all have our theories about how Sasquatch might knock rocks together for whatever reason. We're up here, we're not up here, we're locating, whatever. But the rocks have definitely been smacked together. The hair, the unknown hair, is very tough to explain. It's just accumulation of stuff on this one that's got it so interesting. Any one of these things together would be interesting, but when you compile all 3 or 4 of them, it's kind of off the hook.
Right. I would love. We were excited about this area when you shared it, the knowledge of it and the background and the whole thing. We were all, let's get some audio up there and do all this stuff. And, I think down the road that may be a possibility to place some audio out there. It does take maintenance and human interaction to get the audio out there. But I'm really a fan of just taking it one step at a time. Because we don't know what we're dealing with. We just don't,
Right.
Period.
You're right.
And very much the fan of having, taking baby steps with this. And
well, when you look at it, Shane, with all Bigfoot research, every iota, every ounce of it, have we done it right every time? No. Have we ever done it right to the point where we have proof? No. We just haven't, and nobody has, and that's why we are trying to do this. We're trying to be patient, and if we can go get all the way to May or June, and we don't have any idea, or we don't have any video proof of what's coming in and messing with these beds or making these beds, then we can change a gear, maybe worry about audio, and maybe do some more exploration of the area to see what's going on in there. But yeah, the hardest part is just to be patient. Yeah, keep the side under wraps and be patient.
Yeah, so that's something that lacks in this field is patience. Period. And many of us are guilty of that. We get excited about something, we come across something compelling or unique, and we get excited, and we just jump all boots in. And this is an area where, and I find that needs to be, from my personal opinion, is that needs to be taken slowly, needs to be really thoroughly vetted, and there is no right or wrong answer here, because you're dealing with something unknown, and maybe we're doing things wrong. Who knows? Maybe we're doing things right. I have the feeling that.
You remember, just like I do, we sat and debated for the better part of an hour on if we were going to even hang cameras.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we have to try something. If these things are as smart and as wood savvy and as sharp as we believe they are, we're not going to stick somebody out there in a ghillie suit in a tree stand with a video recorder for a year. It's not going to happen. The only way we're going to get answers is to hope, in my opinion, is to, hopefully get lucky with a video camera. I know a lot of people will probably disagree with the camera approach, but in this particular area, if people were to see it and see how there's just no quiet way in, no quiet way out, there's no really other way to study it or to even try.
Right.
So that's why we opted to go, with doing the cameras, and maybe it'll happen. Maybe it'll be the best piece of video ever, or maybe we'll get nothing. But you got to try if you're gonna get anywhere. If you're gonna walk up a mountain, you got to start taking steps.
Right. Yeah. You don't just get dropped there. But this area, and we're going to change gears here in a second. But so we have hair that's unknown. There's these rocks that were found there that look like they've been clanked together. There's the bedding area by itself with the broken and huckleberries and the nesting area in the area that it's in being kind of remote and not traveled by humans. So you got all these things adding up do not place cameras in there. I was part of that little talk, and did not place cameras in there to add one more piece to the puzzle. And it's a long shot, no doubt, it's a long shot. But to not add that there would be a fallacy. It'd be bad, in my opinion. If you can get a picture of something in this area, it could add even more evidence to what was found, and you could see what's possibly making these beds. And so it all compiles to a bigger picture, and maybe nothing's going to come through there. Maybe nothing will be found on the cams. And like you said, Derek, I know people disagree with cameras and all that, but I think it's a necessity.
People could disagree all they want. I personally could care less. It's part of what we do.
Exactly.
It is part of what we do, and we have documented through the Olympic Project more natural wildlife photos than you can shake a stick at. Thousands and thousands and thousands throughout the Olympics, and at the end of the day, okay, we don't get Sasquatch pictures. We're still documenting an amazing array of animals, and which also lends to the research and lends to the habitat and lends to all kinds of things. So it's just part of what we do. It's how the Olympic Project was started, and honestly, people can think what they want. There is no other feasible way that I can come up with, or that any of us could come up with, to effectively study and surveil this area.
Yeah. No, it's a somewhat of a delicate situation, and there's no, like I said, no right or wrong answer. Hopefully, we'll get something from the cameras. Maybe not, but I think it was the right step. Period. And it's an ongoing area of research, and given the people involved, specifically those that went up with you originally, Derek, and those that discovered the area, it is really it's just really interesting. It's just really interesting, and hopefully down the road we can do them justice and maybe get to an answer on this. I know that a lot of areas get cramped on, and there's just you're really left with nothing, and that's why I think it's important to take this slowly. And eventually, like you said, maybe we'll go in there and it'll be like an archaeological site where you go in there and just totally decimate the area and get everything you can. I mean, there's more hair to be found there. Who knows what else could be found there?
In the future, say they don't come back and utilize these beds, there is still a possibility that whatever constructed these beds is going to wander back through there, because of the nature of the site, with all the food that's there, and how military, I hate to keep saying that, but that's what it reminds me of, how strategically located it is. There is still a possibility that whatever constructed these beds will be walking, at least meandering back through there. And if they do, we will get them on video. The cameras are put in such fashion that if one camera is seen or noticed, by the time that happens, another camera will have it. We did put some thought into camera placement in there. We didn't just randomly go stick them on trees. We were careful about the positioning. So if anything does walk back through this, even if it's a past bedding site, we should get high-def video of it. We're just gonna try that, and then if it doesn't work by say June, and we've gone a year studying this area and we've come up with nothing, then we can change gears. We can deconstruct a couple of the nests, try to get some more hair samples out of them, because it would be fantastic to get. We have not deconstructed a nest yet, and the only way to get the good majority of the hair in any of the given nests is to take the nest apart. Transport one out in bags or whatever, and go through it with a fine-tooth comb, which we have not done yet. That would be really cool. And then also to further explore the areas, because, just say if we're dealing with a Sasquatch, and if their behavior is similar to a mountain gorilla, then there's going to be more nests in this area. They're nests that were probably built this winter. And very, very hopefully we could discover them. So it's not like if we get to June and whatever the culprits are haven't wandered back through, there is more we can do, and we will continue to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the cameras placed up there, I'm sure, are top-notch cameras, and I know James Milling and yourself, you guys are avid hunters, and bar none, some of the best hunters out there. I mean, it's part of your business, and you guys know what you're doing. Period. So I have all the faith and trust in what you guys are doing over anybody out there. If they were to have their hands on this area, you guys are going to do it the best. Period. No doubt about it. And
we're going to try awful hard.
That's a given. Audience,
I got to tell you, the hard part, Shane, is just the hard part for me is being patient.
Yeah.
Because you just want to go in, and I want to go explore all those ridges. I want to crawl through the bushes. I want to see how many more beds there are. I want to go spend the night out there. I want to, all this stuff, and you just really got to keep your leash on and keep yourself back. That's the hard part.
But that to me is research and understanding what you're dealing with, or not understanding what you're dealing with, but knowing that it takes patience no matter what endeavor you're involved in. This truly takes patience, and so I have that's what I got to say about that. It's just a patient game, hoping for results, and if those results don't come, maybe we'll go in there and dissect the area.
Or even if the results do come and it's not what we think it might be.
Exactly.
Just to get to the bottom of it, these nests are so different that I'm just dying to know what's doing it, how it's being done and what's doing it. I know what I think it is in my brain, but just to get the answer, if we're able to answer that question, what built these nests, man, that would be a victory no matter what the answer is.
Yeah.
One of the things I appreciate about the Olympic Project is that you don't see the Olympic Project putting out a lot of information about what they're doing and with conclusions, and this research area falls under the same thing. It's patient. And there's a lot of corroborating evidence that we know a lot of things. It's one of those cases of a lot of exclusionary evidence. There's a lot of things. It's not bears. It's not elk. And it's one of the things that sets the Olympic Project apart from other groups or other researchers is that it'd be really easy to, as soon as this is found, put it up on the internet and let people start, and draw a conclusion and make definitive statements. And that is something that sets the Olympic Project apart from a lot of other, at least internet researchers that show up, and make statements and crap that just it's refreshing for me, and that for me is one of the reasons I appreciate being allowed to be part of the Olympic Project.
Well, I got to tell you, you touched on a really good point there, because I get messaged a lot from other researchers. You guys must not be doing nothing. Why can we never see your stuff on Facebook? And it's it's simply because we don't want to fight about it. If you're going to put something on Facebook, you have to lace your gloves up and get your shorts on, get in the ring, because it hits the fan. And I don't have time or the will to sit and argue about possible evidence. It's useless. It's worthless. There's no good that comes out of it. Now, I will say that a few years back, we did put, and probably mostly my fault, we did put some of our research up on the internet and on Facebook, because I was under the impression that there's a lot of smart people out there, and it'd be nice to get their opinion. And actually, I started doing it on the forums, the Bigfoot forums, and that was somewhat controlled, but then fights always start, and attitudes happen. And so, just to answer this question, why don't we put our stuff up on Facebook? We don't put our stuff on Facebook because, in my opinion, in all of our opinion, it's just not the place for it. It's a great place to discuss stuff, to argue about stuff, but what I tell people is, if we ever get the evidence, the money shot, the evidence, and we can prove, or we have that stuff, it'll be out there. But it just, you guys know as well as I do, you put something up on Facebook, I don't care how good it is or how bad it is. It's going to be fought about, and it's going to be argued over, and it's going to be page after page of crap. And I'm not into it. I have that's
another case
of it doesn't serve you well.
Learning, and that's another case of learning from past mistakes. You learn,
right?
And I tell people, I said, one thing I know for sure is Bigfoot will not be proven on Facebook.
Bingo.
Will be argued about, and people waste a lot of time talking about, stuff on Facebook, but it is not the place, as you said, Derek, it's not the place that anything to have evidence vetted, and that's the slow process. I applaud you and the rest of the Olympic project for not, taking it slow, as hard as that is to do.
We do present our evidence, but we present our evidence at a symposium when we're gathered around with other like-minded researchers that are trying to get answers, or on interviews like this. I have no problem talking about this stuff. It's just this to me is the place to talk about it. Sitting here with you guys, or if we're at the Sasquatch Summit or one of these other things. That's what we're there to do. We're there to share our research. And, therefore you only kind of hear about what the Olympic Project's doing once or twice a year. But you know what? That's okay. We're not out here to posture or to pose or to try to be better than the next group. We really don't give a crap. We're out here to do what we do. And, if we get something great, then the world will know. And if we don't, it's just business as usual. We'll keep on doing what we're doing. But rest assured, we are very busy doing what we're doing. And that's not our only research site, as you guys well know. And so it's, it just doesn't belong there. I don't think Facebook is fun in some ways, but as you guys well know, it's just one researcher against another. It's almost like organized religion, and it's just not the place to take the research that you consider serious, and unless you just want to sit and argue for days.
Right, and that's not research. That truly is not research. If you're going to argue stuff, where do you want to spend your time? Arguing about something, or vetting something and getting out in the field and actually doing research
right.
or investigations. That to me is research, not arguing over things, semantics or whatever on Facebook. That's pointless. It gets you nowhere. End of the day, it's he said, she said.
Right.
So
there's been enough of that going on lately.
There's been enough of that going on lately, and it's sad. But true research is probably never shared until it's built. True research is researched, and shared in a fashion that has been vetted. And this is what our conclusions are, or our ideas are, but without all the banter in between. And I know the Olympic Project and whatnot. Many groups out there and people are about vetting evidence and sharing stuff, but at the same time, where do you want to spend your time? It's just obvious to me. It's not on Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've go ahead.
I had a couple questions about the site. Of the 8 beds that are at the site that have been identified, how many of the beds were checked for hair?
3.
Okay, so and of all the hairs that were collected, did they all come back? Was there any known animal hairs that came out of that?
Yes, I'm sure there were. I don't have a list with me though. But in a forest environment like that, you're going to have deer hair, and
sure.
I know she got some deer hair. That's not correct. There were 3 beds up on top of the ridge that were that we got hair samples out of, and then James went down and did some work on a lower bed, but the lower bed wasn't constructed of huckleberry tips. It was more like a deer lay, just a spot on the ground where a large animal had been laying, and we did get some hair samples out of that as well, and that came back obviously as deer. And that was below the ridge, down off the ridge shoulder, probably 100 yards away.
So
I don't know.
Really
I don't have a list of what other animal hairs were in the beds. We could get that. It's not hard. We just have to ask Cindy. Cindy's got that list.
Right. But that's what you would expect. It's not. We found these beds, and all we found in them were Sasquatch hairs. You found hairs in them of other animals. And then you
we do have. Our first camera check we did out there. We do have deer. We did have deer and bear cruising through the area. So there's 2 hair sources right there.
Right.
Along with all the other animals that are out there.
Right. So just so people are clear, it's like, they found these beds and all the hairs. There was what you would expect to find in the environment. And there were hairs that were identified that matched some other hairs of unknown species some that were tied to previous Bigfoot encounters. There was a sighting. And
well, if I don't quote this wrong, one of the hares in particular was matched up identically with a hare that Cindy had identified from the Wainuchi area that I think David Ellis had found that was not known. It was an unknown hare, but it had the attributes or characteristics of being a Sasquatch hare to Cindy, and it matched that hare amazingly perfect, which was a pretty big deal. I don't pretend to know a lot about hair. Just going by what Cindy told me.
And if anybody is not familiar with Cindy Doson's work, you should look her up online. And she's doesn't do DNA analysis. She actually does hair analysis.
Hair identification and analysis. Yep.
Right. So, but
she's very good.
What she does is brilliant. Yep. And one of the questions in the chat room, Derek, is at what elevation is the nest site?
Without giving too much away, I'd say you could probably between 400 and 500 feet. That's as much as you're going to get from me.
That's good enough. That answers the question.
We're obviously trying to keep the area under wraps,
Are there other? Is there a history in the area of any anecdotal stories for Squatch?
Yes, there is.
Oh yeah,
absolute history in this region.
Yeah, even Native American. We're talking about a long history of sightings and reports. Even with the Native Americans, this area has a thorough history. In fact, this area has, even with the names of some of these areas, a lot of, which was one of the appealing things to me was, having done some research on it, was that the Native Americans had names for some of these areas that were very related to the subject.
Right.
And
I personally have even had something happen in very close to this area.
Yes.
So it is an area that doesn't surprise me one little bit.
Yeah, exactly. One of the other questions, Derek, was the scat samples, and scat is a very hard thing to get studied upon. I know there was a lot of scat in the area and whatnot, but what do you say to the audience as far as where there's obviously scat samples were taken, but what came from those?
Actually, not a bunch were taken because you can't do much with it other than figure out whatever it was eating.
Right.
And there was a mixture of stuff in the poo. I think John looked at it closer. He looked at the poo closer than I do. Me personally, I don't pay much attention to scat because scat's scat. And you're not going to get DNA off of it, especially old scat. It's just not going to happen. So the most you can learn is just what it was eating, to a degree. So don't have a lot to say about the scat. I will say that it looked very similar to bear, and it also looked very similar, almost identical to ape.
Yeah.
It's very, very similar to both.
That's a very hard thing to study or get anything from because you can learn what something's eating, but you're limited as to what actually dropped a load.
Sure.
Right.
And there is. I'm not going to tell you that there wasn't because there was. There was a lot of bear sign in this area as well, but there's a ton of bears in this area. There's a whole lot of bear. There's a big bear population where we're talking about, and but the thing that just in my mind and in a couple biologists' minds already, these are not bear beds. And if these are bear beds, then this is an activity here in North America that's never been documented.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah,
because these nests, imagine yourself breaking limbs, carrying them over to an area, and then building a nest, going back, breaking more limbs, carrying them over to an area, and continuing to build. And that's just not a bear activity.
Yeah. In this area too, it with the amount of scat that was there, when I saw the pictures and whatnot, I was kind of
kind of floored at the amount of scat around some of these nests. That seems so, having viewed, what gorillas do, building their nests, it was so crazy.
It was almost identical, huh?
It's almost identical. I've never, I'm a guy that's, in the woods as much as anybody, and never come across anything like this. I mean, I've come across bear scat and elk scat and all that, but having a bedding area with all this scat around it, never really seen that before. And this was, to me, very unique and compelling and interesting, given the sizes, even some of these nests. Some people have come at me going, having talked about this, could this be, like a porcupine? Porcupines build nests, right? I've yet to see a porcupine out in the woods, personally. And these nests were they varied in sizes,
right.
You mentioned before, large to small, but with a scat, porcupines don't leave that type of scat. There's a lot of unopened, and whatnot questions here, but it's definitely unique, bar none.
Yeah, and a couple of these nests they're way too big for porcupines.
Right, exactly.
Way too big.
Way too.
Or
big.
I don't want to meet the porcupine that made it.
And just for the listening audience, if you were to just say you were to go about your business and you were to break the last 5 inches off of huckleberries and gather an enormous amount of it and lay it out in a round circular fashion and then lay in the middle of it, and imagine that you weighed a lot, and when you got up and you look back down, that's what we're talking about. The nests were constructed and then laid in. And the one of the craziest things to me was how consistently the foliage was a foot thick or so in these nests. And in one of these nests looks fairly small, and there's a little sapling coming right up out of the middle of it, and it looks kind of small. And then when Kelsey got in it and laid down in it, you guys saw those pictures, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the smaller nests. And she fit in there beautifully, and I believe she's 5'11". She's almost 6 feet tall. And I don't know.
I called it the stripper pole.
The stripper pole. There you go.
Right in the middle of the nest, it just looks like a stripper pole to me, right off the bat.
That's what it will forever be named now, Shane.
Oh, good. I'm glad I had my piece there. The stripper
Classic.
pole. But some of the questions coming in, Bruce Kelly has mentioned, with the scat samples, could you figure out what was in them, given the time of year and everything else? Could you find salmon scales or anything in those scats?
Well, that's a question for John.
Yeah.
Because call me whatever, call me stupid or whatever, but I'm not sure what he found in the scat yet. I'm not sure exactly what he found in the scat. He did take a scat sample, and I'm not sure exactly what was found in it. We were trying to. It looked pretty obvious that the scat might have belonged to whatever made the nest, but we're not sure that it did. Because in this whole area, there's bear sign also, and it wouldn't even surprise me if the scat was just bear scat. So I don't know.
Well, that brings up an interesting question, though. With the bear in the area, with this subject in general, people often argue back and forth. Do bear avoid Bigfoot? Do Bigfoot avoid bear? How do they coexist? There's obviously bear in this area. Obviously, other animals like deer and elk in this area and whatnot. How does the bear fit into this area? I mean, it seems to me that it is a seasonal area, and the bear may frequent the area during certain times of year when, say, Sasquatch possibly is not in the area. But I don't know.
Maybe they compete over the spot.
Right.
Maybe there's a competition going on over the spot. I will say this, on our first camera check, which was about a 3 to 3.5 month run, I only got one bear on camera in there. And it didn't pay any attention to the nest. It walked right through. Got it on 2 different cameras, but it was the same bear. But for an area with a lot of bears, I was kind of shocked for that time span to only get one bear on camera.
Yeah. Because we know for a fact that some of the areas that we explore in the Olympics that we have cameras, there's multiple bear. And
look at our last camera check up there.
Mhm. Yeah, that was one of the cool things that was on the camera was the shot of the bear.
Right, one of the Crescent Ridge cameras, you bet.
So one of the questions in the chat room is were the amount of berry bushes overly abundant as compared to other areas? I mean, how much you didn't go and I mean, you pretty much concentrated on the area of the nesting site. You didn't go and survey the entire area around there. But was there, from what you know, was there a heavier concentration of huckleberries there than the surrounding areas?
Well, yes and no. In this particular area, you will find vast quantities of huckleberry. And then in some areas, depending on the sunlight, you'll find a carpet of salal or kinnikinnick. You can go, over the ridge, over any ridge in this area, and find a huge field of huckleberry under the canopy. So it's not uncommon. There's a ton of huckleberry out there. It's the blue huckleberry, not the red, the blue. And so no, it's not. If that's what they're asking, it's not special to this particular spot. What is unique about this spot is its positioning, and the fact that there is, and to go even further down that hole, the positioning. This is a spot where you cannot get an upper vantage, and I think that's important, or it could be important. This is a spot, like we were talking about, this area being almost impossible to surveil. One of the things that, and it was probably my second trip in there before I realized that this could be a factor, but when you're walking through, the topography in these areas is up and down, up and down, up and down. And a lot of areas, if you're in that area, even if it's thick, you can get on a higher vantage point and look down into it. Well, that's not the case here. And that's one of the unique things about it. You cannot see into it from distance at all. And partially because of the topography and partially because of the thickness of the foliage, and which to me also lends to what a great spot to stay hidden. But no, to answer the person in the chat room's question, the huckleberry is not unique to this spot. There are fields of it everywhere under the canopy there.
But very conveniently located with the stream down below that has seasonal salmon runs, and right.
And I got to tell you, coming off the end of this ridge where the nests are located, if something was heard approaching, and just say theoretically, if there was 4 or 5 subjects sitting there, or 3 subjects sitting there, if something was approaching, they could bail off of there in a freaking heartbeat, within seconds, and be gone, and unseen, because they right off the end of this ridge, right straight down into a very heavily timbered, heavily brushed river ravine. And so when you look at all that, the spot is well thought out. What a safe place to exist for whatever amount of time, because you just can't sneak in.
Derek, did it look at all like the beds had ever been added to? Was there layers on? Was there a layer that looked underneath that looked older that might have been there previously, or this looks like they were found fairly soon after they were originally built?
Well, that's a great question, Gunnar. And we were really trying to figure that out, but what we didn't want to do was deconstruct any of them. And it almost looks to me, if I was going to guess, I would guess that they were built and then that was that. I wouldn't say that there was any evidence in my brain that they had been added to. But we don't know, because we didn't. I think if we would have taken and deconstructed one or two of them initially, we probably could have learned that, but we didn't want to. We didn't want to spread our scent around or really screw with the site at all. I mean, it was precarious trying to get hair samples out of there without really disturbing the beds, and very time consuming. But no, I would say, in my opinion, and this opinion might vary from James's or John's or David's, they don't look like they were added to. It looked like they were constructed at one point in time, and then that was that.
And that was fairly. Now, when did you first visit the site?
In May of last year.
Okay, May. And the feeling was, from your experience, is that they were probably built around March, sometime in March.
Well, in the beginning, we were thinking January, February-ish. Now, and I don't know. I just don't know, because they were 60% still green, 60 to 70% still green, and this was in like the middle of May. So I would say, best guess, 2 to 2.5 months prior. March,
one of the things,
later February, March.
One of the things I appreciate about the way that you report things is if you don't know, you say you don't know.
Yeah, and I say that a lot, because there's a hell of a lot I don't know.
Well, that's because, but that is that applies to all of Bigfooting. Is we don't know 99.9% of, and when people say things, make definitive statements about stuff and draw conclusions, a lot of times they have not, it's like filling out the dot to dot, connect the dots. They have not connected the dots. They are just making a leap and supposition instead of, there's nothing to support, and that's the importance of the way that this is being approached is. It's very interesting. There's a lot of corroborating evidence that leads toward where it would be very easy to say, what you think it is as fact, and the Olympic Project just is great about not doing that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much to call these Bigfoot beds, we're going to have to get a Sasquatch on camera pretty much, really well. And I mean, and that's just all there is to it. And unfortunately, I think, one of the things that gets my goat in Bigfoot research is people speaking definitively about anything Bigfoot, because there is absolutely nothing definitive to say. And I know a lot of people don't like it when I say that, but because everybody thinks they know what they know. But the fact of the matter is, at least in my brain, there isn't anything definitive yet. We're not there. We're just not there, and hopefully we get there. And I'm really hoping that we can definitively speak about what's making these beds by the time this is said and done.
Me too. It's very. I mean, but the cool thing is that this is under investigation, and there are camera. In fact, basically a camera trap. It sounds like that they might even if people tell me that they think Bigfoot can smell cameras, which maybe they can smell something. I don't know that they can smell and count cameras with their nose. So
no, and with these cameras have been in country for a long time now. These cameras have been out there since June, and actually the latter part of May, and they are into their environment right now. And if they smell them, they smell them. If they don't smell them, they don't smell them. I don't pay a lot of attention to people talking about Sasquatch identifying cameras, because it really doesn't matter. I mean, they either do or they don't. It's when you have a situation like this. This is a unique spot. There just isn't another good way to surveil this. This is it. You can't hire somebody to sit in a tree stand unscented and not move for a year. It's not going to happen.
I think Shane would do that. But.
You probably would.
We just don't have the funds to pay him right now to do it. But.
Yeah. But that's one of the crazy, most unique things about this spot. You know, when you really think about it, you can't see into it from an upper vantage at all. You can't fly a drone around in there; it's too thick. You can't sneak into it quietly unless you do it in the middle of a rainstorm and you belly crawl in under all these bushes. There's just no good way to get in there. And so, what does that tell you? That tells you that this spot was well thought out.
You speak to
by whatever did it. This spot was well thought out. These beds were made by something that knew this was a safe spot to sleep. You know, think about that for a second. You know, whatever made these beds knew this was a very safe spot to do it, whatever it was. And, you know, there's just, it's when you start wrapping your mind around it and you really start thinking about the intricacies of the location, the food availability, everything that's going on there, it's really, it just keeps tugging you right down the road.
And one of the things that is so compelling, I mean, of all the things that are found there, the beds are cool, but the two rocks to me is like, that is off the hook.
Yeah, it really is. That hit me sideways, man. Picked those rocks up, and I'm like, James, get over here. And we instantly started taking pictures of them, and then we resituated them right back where we found them, and they're still sitting there, you know. Yeah, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. So it's my hope, you know, next time or the second time from now that we go back in there, that if we can just hike in there and see that the beds have been added to, or new beds or something like that, man, I tell you what, I'm going to be doing a happy dance, because we should have whatever it is on camera. And along with that area being camera trapped out, we also have gone over the ridge a little ways onto a couple pretty heavily used game trails, and we've got a couple cameras down in that area as well. So the cameras are not just in the immediate area. We didn't venture very far afield, but a little ways off on a couple of the routes coming up from the bottom, that's cameraed as well.
Derek, the question came through is this a reprod area, and if so, what was the age and the height of the timber?
No, it's not a reprod area by any stretch. The age of the timber is, I would say, approximately 45 to 50 years old.
There you go.
Yeah,
with a good heavy canopy.
So it's not an area that has been logged in a long time, or people have been in a long time, which I find very interesting. Correct.
And actually it was being looked at to be logged pretty soon. That's why the guy was in there in the first place.
Well, Derek, what's you know, for the audience, what's in the future for the you know, Olympic project? What else is going on? And we're talking about this bedding area, but there's so much else going on with the Olympic project that has not really been shared or has been shared at times. But there's so much more to the Olympic project than this one project.
Well, yeah, there's a lot going on. The data statistical analysis that Tom Baker is doing is ongoing, and he's coming up with some amazing stuff, and that's going on all the time. Tom is adding to it and studying the available data and finding patterns and consistencies with that. So that's one facet of what's going on. You have your research that you're working on in your area, you and your group down there, your team down there, which is, I know you guys have a lot going on. David Ellis, I will say, I'm not going to say a whole lot because I know I'm upset at me, but he has got some new stuff going on with audio in another location that is some of the best I've heard, and that's very recent. So there's a lot of audio stuff going on. We are doing camera work in other areas as well, and as a matter of fact, three of us, we got to have a powwow pretty quick to figure out when we're going back up there. There's a lot going on, you know, and that, again, you know, in the Facebook world and stuff like that, I think it's, I answer this question a lot. It's the only reason I bring it up. But what are you guys doing? How come you guys aren't doing anything? Man, I got to tell you, we are doing a lot. There's a lot going on, and as much as all of us can do it on a voluntary basis with time allowed, you know, we're all doing as much as we can. But there is a lot going on, a lot of different heads to the research, and I got to tell you, I am super excited about this year. I know one of my New Year's resolutions is to hit it super, super, super hard this year. I think it's time that the bar gets raised. And what I mean is, I'm going to. I know me personally, I'm going to be devoting a whole lot of time this year to Bigfoot research. I think advancements are right around the corner, and we're going to hit it really hard.
Yeah, fantastic.
I would vote for a time of year when the wasp or hornets have not yet become active.
There's a great backstory there.
and that's really more for Tom than for anybody else.
Oh, well, as long as we put Tom about 4th or 5th back, the rest of us should be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying.
That didn't work. That didn't work either.
Oh man, all those hikes. The funny thing is, me leading, I don't think I got stung once. I got to find some wood to knock on though.
For folks that are, we went out and did retrieved the cameras from one of the research areas for the OP this last spring, and Tom Baker, for some reason, was a pincushion for hornets, and I think he was stung like 13 times.
Yeah.
I managed to escape with one sting because I was following Tom too closely. So, but
yeah, it was like every couple hours you just hear him start swearing.
Yeah. So
I think I'd walk over the nest, and then I'm not sure who was behind me, but a couple people behind me, and by the time the 4th person got there, they were pissed. And man, yeah, there was a lot of. I think there was 17 stings that day.
Quite a few, yeah. We all seemed to take one, but Tom took a lot for the team. We appreciated that. So
yeah,
I just can't say enough about the work that Tom does with the data. I'm a data nerd, and I've never seen anything like what's been put together. One of the big objectives with the Olympic project is to create predictability, and a lot of the data work lens is what needs to be done to create that. So there's when Tom has done presentations, of like I see stuff and I'm like, why the hell is it? Then I start wondering why certain things show up certain ways, and you got to start digging into it, and it's really cool stuff, but very time consuming and very cool. So kudos to Tom for the work that he does, and I know that he has help with that too. So
right,
but
yeah, Jason Aiken has in this last year or two done a lot, and he's not too many people in the research world. I think they're starting to know who he is, but he's helped us out a lot with a lot of stuff, and definitely would like to give a shout out to Jason Aiken. He showed up on one of our expeditions, one of our public expeditions, and what a cool dude. What a class act that guy is, and he's so intelligent. But I know he's had his hand in quite a bit of stuff, and just a nice shout out and a thank you to him as well.
Yeah, I had the pleasure to meet Jason at Beachfoot this year. So, and we've been working with the Tillamook Forest Group is working with Jason on some scientific protocol, and the guy is just off the charts smart. We've got our own resident genius in the Tillamook Group with Larry Turner.
Yeah,
because Larry's like a savant, the Sasquatch savant. So.
I know, you guys start talking about this stuff, and it's just like, I'm going to go cook something now. I can't keep up. I'm not even going to try. You guys hungry?
Yes, highly recommend that if you can ever go bigfooting with Larry Turner, please do so, because the food is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. What a good group, man. It's just, you guys are so much fun to work with, and we got a hopefully real busy, real fun season coming up here.
Well, that speaks to collaboration, though. Multiple. One of the things that a lot of people argue about is collaboration, and the Aluminum Project specifically has collaborated with so many individuals and groups. It's ridiculous because project in general is not so closed-minded not to share stuff, but they are selective as to who they collaborate with. I mean, if you're serious about the subject and have some stuff going on in certain areas, I mean, collaboration is key. That's what propels the subject is collaboration, because just because you have something going on in one area doesn't mean something else is not going on in another area. Getting from point A to point B, collaboration is so important. And I know that, and I believe this wholeheartedly, is that the Olympic Project leads this with collaboration.
Mm-hmm. And it's nice to share information. It really is. This last year, I've got the honor of doing some consulting with Les Stroud for a couple of his shows, and just sharing information with him, and being able to draw on what Tom's done and what you guys have done and what David's done, so I could, consult with Les and tell him, okay, well, we've learned this and we've learned this and we think this, and it was just, if it wouldn't have been for all the collaboration from everybody involved, it wouldn't have been able to help him out, or to help anybody out. And you're right, man. Collaboration that's how things learn. That's how things are learned, and we've been very fortunate to have -0 drama, and it's really cool. It's really cool. And again, that's probably one of the reasons we just, try to keep it off Facebook as much as we can. But just a great group of people, man. I feel very, very lucky to work with you guys, and it's a team effort. It's a lot of fun.
Well, that feeling is very mutual. I mean, it's the process was, for those that don't know, I mean, I attended an expedition. In fact, several of the members of our Tillamook group attended an expedition and then were invited to become part of the Olympic project. I knew because my good friend Larry Turner is an audio nut, and that he is obsessed with processing audio data. And I knew when I met Larry, I knew that he was going to have to meet David Ellis at some point, because and as soon as they're birds of a feather, and they went off, and ever since then, David has been a huge help to the Tillamook group, and if anybody who's ever listened to the show will know that my mantra is collaboration, not competition. Got the T-shirt and the bumper sticker, and
you bet.
The Olympic Project represents that in a huge way, and the collaboration for just really is important to all these individual groups. That if we were just working by ourselves, we would not be near as far along as we did not have an association with the Olympic Project, because we share data and bounce things off each other, and it's a huge asset to be working with the Olympic Project and other groups that we do. So,
and likewise, you guys are quite a group, man. You got a lot of smart people going on down there in Tillamook.
Well, I appreciate that. We're lucky to have, like you said, Larry and Cindy and Barb and of course Shane. But we have it just is a great collaborative effort. So, Shane, are you still with us?
I'm still with us. I'm still here. The show has been fascinating, and I hope the audience realizes that the efforts put forth by the Olympic Project are honest and very transparent. And the fact that even with the findings found and stuff discovered, that nobody's claiming anything other than they are interesting findings, that we're not claiming that everything is Sasquatch. We're about getting to the bottom of it. And I know Derek Randles is all about that. And we are about getting to the truth, and whatever that leads us to. Maybe this nesting area, this bedding area, will be something known, even though those involved say otherwise.
Feel otherwise anyway.
Yeah, it's just that interesting. And there's many other things going on. But the thing is, the people involved with this stuff and the people involved in the Limb Project, Tillamook Forest Group, whatever, are interested in the facts and getting to the bottom of that. So I just say, hey, listen and learn and teach us as well, because we're very open-minded and we want to hear from everybody. There's no easy answer to any of this, obviously, because this has been going on for many, many years with the research of the subject. But I do want to say that 2016 is going to be a very unique year. It's going to be a very fun year. It's going to be a year where a lot of us are going to put in a lot of time into the subject. And stay tuned for future follow-up with the bedding area and other things. So it's just an exciting year. Stay involved, stay interactive, and do your due diligence with the work involved, and have fun at it. Period.
Yeah, I can tell you, I'm extremely motivated. I'm more motivated now than I have been in quite a while. Been giving it a lot of thought, and just the way I look at it is, there's enough of us now. When we've got some sites, some spots that are pretty compelling. We got to do it justice. We got to hit it hard this year. We got to hit it really hard, and that's one of the reasons. Like last year, I think either May or June was our last public expedition that we've done, because we just decided that we wanted to spend more time in-house researching. I mean, the expeditions were fantastic. They were kind of learning trips for people, and we all enjoyed them. But now, I mean, I'm at the point now where it's like, if we have, that any spare time, we want to be out working our core areas and trying to advance on these areas. And so, I get asked a lot, when are you guys doing more expeditions? When are you going to do more expeditions? And I'm not sure that we are. We're going to have to all sit down and round table on this to see if we're going to do any more, or one or two this year, or we're not going to do them at all. But, hey, my phone is dying. I got to call you back on another phone.
Okay. Well, we'll talk amongst ourselves for a couple minutes, or a minute here, so.
Okay, I'll call you. Just only take me about a minute.
Okay, we'll be here.
Okay.
So, I mean, to me, this is one of the more, when I heard about this site, it was like, and I remember when there's a process even through the Olympic project that they vet things before they even share it with the entire group, which I appreciate. I mean, it's
right.
That it's not everything's Bigfoot, and I've been around enough people that everything is Bigfoot that just drives me nuts. And for me, it's a breath of fresh air to be involved with a group that vets information, like the Olympic project, like we do in the Tillamook group. So and our association. Oh, I think Derek is back now. Hold on just a sec. Derek, welcome back.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties here
problem.
at the Randles residence. So where were we?
Let's see, where were we?
Basically, we're down to our last couple of minutes of the show, but Derek, we talked about the future progress of not just the Limb Project, but the Bigfoot world, or Bigfoot field in general. I mean, what do you see coming down the road, down the pike here? I mean, is this, what do you see the same old, or are we getting somewhere with this field?
Well, I think that we're getting somewhere. I think that there's a lot of good researchers out there. With the, I'm not sure how I feel about drones or how effective they're going to be, but with the influx of all the new thermal imagery happening and everybody, a lot of researchers getting these tools in their hands, I think it's a matter of time before some really good footage is going to happen. There's, and then, the different projects that have the game cameras in place. I think every day, or at least, every season, we learn a little more, working towards predictability. I've said it before and been wrong, but it just feels like we're kind of on the cusp of something here. There are there's some really good people doing this, and I think that science has taken a little bit better look, maybe just baby steps, but maybe looking at things a little more seriously. It would be really nice to see the drama subside and all the classroom crap going on. It'd be nice
to. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not, and it's unfortunate because it has nothing to do with research.
Right.
That part's frustrating.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of good people out there doing this for the right reasons, that are doing their due diligence and doing things correctly and trying to learn. And again, technology is advancing. Hopefully we get it done or get it figured out before they're gone.
Right.
But it just, I think with the technology that's out right now and the will, there's a lot of people with a lot of will to get this done. I think it's next couple of years could be pretty interesting. And I have said that before, but it just feels that way, even with us, with our two groups. And I think that I'm not going to say getting close, but I think we're learning. I really do. And I think that it wouldn't surprise me if something pretty big happens in the next year or two. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I'm on board with you there. I think something big is going to happen. It's just my gut feeling, and I could be totally wrong, way off base. But I think with the amount of collaboration, the amount of people involved that are really wholeheartedly involved in this, that are honest individuals, both with academia and those just enthusiastic about the subject matter, I think we're getting somewhere, and I think we're going to get somewhere. And it will be shown down the road here in the near future. That's just my personal gut feeling, and it's what drives me. It's what I find exciting. And if nothing else, I know that those that I work with and those involved in the subject matter that I collaborate with are going about it the right way. And to me, that is just that much better. It makes this fun, and that's what this is about for me, is having fun. I want my daughter, we talked about at the beginning of the show, who was hiking out with me, I want my daughter to go out and enjoy nature in general, and look at her dad and go, hey, you're doing something cool. I may or may disagree with you, but you're doing something fun, and I believe in you, and enjoying what you do. I want everybody out there that is involved with the subject or just involved with going hiking to enjoy it. That's what it bottoms out to. Attacking people and getting involved in all the drama, boring, and gets you nowhere. Let's just enjoy the subject matter, and hopefully down the road here, I think it's going to be a big year. I really do, for this subject.
Well, you keyed on something there, Shane, big time. It is, none of us get paid to do this. The reason that this is exciting is because it's fun. You guys make it fun. I think all of us together, we have a blast. We really do, and you're not going to get, and odds are, we may never figure out the Bigfoot phenomenon, but we are going to have a lot of fun, and we have had a lot of fun. We're going to continue to do so and continue to learn. And the minute I'm done having fun, I'm done. You got to have fun doing this, and you got to enjoy the people you're doing it around, or it ain't worth it.
Right. And that's the truth, is nobody's getting paid to do this. This is out of our pocket, or out of everybody's pocket, whoever's involved with the subject. And the least you can do is enjoy those that you work with and enjoy the surroundings and the areas you go to. And if you get some stuff, awesome. But don't go into this for other, ill-mattered matters. I mean, just enjoy it. Have fun.
And don't ever take yourself too seriously.
Damn right. Yeah, that's true.
Half the world, more than half the world, thinks we're nuts anyway. So you can't take things too seriously. You got to keep it in perspective.
We are down to a minute, guys. So I'm going to wrap this up. Derek, I want to say thanks again, buddy, for joining us tonight. Great show, great information, exciting. I look forward to hearing more about what comes out of the site, the ongoing investigation. And Shane, I always enjoy your company, my friend. Remember, folks, we are on every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific, and we will be back next week with another great episode of Monster X Radio. Until then, go out and do something productive. Get out in the woods. Look for squatch. Enjoy yourself. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You bet.